Good evening. This is the news at 6 on MITV. I am Tomi Singh. President Muhammadu Buhari has committed a sum of $100 million to combat insecurity in the country in the Economic Community of West African Sub-Region. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyeama, told attendees at the virtual 58th Ordinary Session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS that a sum of 20 million naira will be released for the implementation of the ECOWAS action plan on the fight against terrorism. He said another 80 million will be disbursed towards the fight against terrorism and banditry in Nigeria's northeast and northwest regions. According to the minister, the president has called for the immediate implementation of the action plan, which is expected to run from 2020 to 2024. In 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari had hinged his election campaign on three major areas: economic development for the country, fighting insecurity, and putting an end to corruption. He restated a promise upon his re-election in 2019.
Your Excellencies, on terrorism and violent extremism, the increase in the spate of violent attacks by terrorists and other criminal elements across the region is worrisome. Nigeria strongly condemns all forms of terrorism and violence that usually result in the displacement of citizens, destruction of the economy, and loss of life. In addition, Nigeria wishes to express its solidarity with affected member states. It is now more important than ever for the region to work together and combat this menace. The region needs to commence immediate implementation of the ECOWAS action plan on the fight against terrorism. We urge member states to pay their voluntary contributions into the fund dedicated to the implementation of the 2020-2024 action plan. We have already directed the immediate remittance of the sum of $20 million pledged by Nigeria to the pool account of the ECOWAS action plan to fight terrorism.
And after security matters, the Middle Belt Forum has condemned the Inspector General of Police Muhammad Adamu for ordering the arrest of the Yoruba ethnic rights activist Sunday Adeyemo, who is popularly known as Sunday Igboho. The forum also supported Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, who resolved to get rid of bandits from its forest reserves and end kidnappings and other crimes in Ondo State. The Middle Belt Forum also said the governor has a right to protect his people from bandits. The forum said the federal government should not interfere in the genuine effort deployed by the governor of Ondo State, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, to end the ceaseless abduction of people in the state. What it said they should do is advise the federal government to assist Akeredolu and other governors to flush out this criminal elements and end the culture of lawlessness ripping across not only Ondo State, but also other states across the southwest, where these outlaws have turned the nation's forest reserves into the safe harbor for their crimes. Now, while the Commissioner of Police in Oyo State, Ngozi Onodiako, has called for calm in the state, promising that action will be taken against those behind the recent violence and ethnic tension in the state. In the statement issued on behalf of the Commissioner, the command spokesperson, CSP Fadeyi Olugbenga, said investigation into the arson and breach of peace which occurred at Gongo will be investigated to a logical conclusion and culprits will be brought to justice. The police boss blamed the situation in the state on inciting pronouncement of Sunday Igboho, warns the security agencies will not watch while some criminal elements take laws into their hands. The statement, however, did not confirm or deny a report that the Inspector General of Police had ordered Adeyemo Sunday's arrest. Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, had issued a quick notice to headers in the state and on Friday held a rally in Gongo to buttress its position. According to the police, the rally is responsible for the violence which resulted in houses and cars being burned in the town. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged the federal government to publish within 7 days details of proposed payment of 729 billion naira to 24.3 million poor Nigerians for 6 months, aimed are cushioning the effect of COVID-19. SARAP also demanded disclosure of the mechanism and logistics for the payment, the list of beneficiaries and how they have been selected, projected payment per state, and whether the payment will be made in cash or through their bank verification numbers or other means. In the Freedom of Information FOI request by SARAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwajare, who addressed the letter to Ms. Sadia Umar Farouk, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, it urged her to explain the rationale for paying 5,000 naira to 24.3 million poor Nigerians, which translates to 5% of the country's budget of 13.6 trillion naira for 2021, and to clarify if the proposed spending was part of the 5.6 trillion budget deficit. Umar Farouk had last week disclosed that the federal government will pay about 24.3 million poor Nigerians 5,000 naira each for a period of 6 months to provide help to those impoverished by the COVID-19 pandemic. SARAP maintained that publishing the details of the beneficiaries and the selection criteria as well as the payment plan for 6 months to promote transparency, accountability, and also remove the risk of mismanagement and diversion of public funds. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Steve Onu, explained that the integrated center encompasses 5 states designed to comprehensively cover key areas of the industry while enhancing safety, value, and cost efficiency. The units are Search, Rescue, and Surveillance Command and Control Center, the National Improved Oil Recovery Center, Oil and Gas Alternative Dispute Resolution Center, Oil and Gas Competence Development Center, and Integrated Data Mining and Analytics Center. On the SARAS, the Minister further explained that it is a flagship program of the center designed to enhance safety management, emergency preparedness and response, routine, and transportation for bed space management. Meanwhile, the government says it will increase access to cooking gas for rural area dwellers. It said this will drive the cost reduction and improve operational efficiency across the industry, while upon its full implementation, the annual industry expenditure for offshore and remote locations, flight logistics and emergency response will reduce by 50%.
Established. The successes, you will recall that immediately following our inauguration as ministers of the Federal Republic, 9 key deliverable priorities were handed down to the Ministry of Petroleum. Thanks to the formidable leadership of His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, who is also the Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources, we have continued to implement sustainable reforms and policy directions in the Nigerian oil and gas industry, targeted at driving optimum value from our petroleum resources for Nigerians.
We apologize for the mix-up in the name. That was the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva. In another development, the federal government has reiterated its effort towards promoting technological evolution across the country. The Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Christopher Onu, made a disclosure during the official unveiling of a locally made car invented by a young Nigerian identified as Awal Hassan in Abuja on Monday. The minister said the achievement of economic development goals are dependent on innovations and inventions. The minister therefore encouraged young inventors to make use of the opportunities provided by the science and technology in developing the country. Also speaking, the young inventor said the invitation was pointed to the fact that the government cares about the aspirations of Nigerians.
It is the young people who are really the greatest assets. And we have said it here in this ministry that it is not the crude oil or the natural gas that within our nation providing the foreign exchange that we'll be using to run the nation. for a number of years, or the goals that is being mined in many of our states, in Zamfara State, in Osun State, and all that. We have seen that the richest people in the world today get their money from using their brain. The richest corporations depend on science and technology. This is what is happening today. But we know that from the beginning of time, that no nation has ever become truly great without science and technology. So as you struggling within yourself to see how you can make contributions to our nation, and we're very happy from what you said towards the end, that this is not the last, and we don't want it to be the last.
Of this great country, Nigeria. Today's event is a demonstration of the federal government's commitment to the ideals of democracy that I, from rural Bauchi State, can be called upon to exhibit my God-given talent. It is also a pointer to the fact that the government care about the dreams and aspirations of all Nigerians.
The Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria has disclosed that about 400,000 teachers and education practitioners have so far registered for its first edition of the National Conference of Registered Teachers. The Registrar and Chief Executive of TRCN, Professor Olusegun Josiah Ajiboye, made this known while speaking to newsmen in Abuja. A correspondent Marian Enakimo reports that the TRCN boss mentioned that the online conference scheduled for the 26th and 27th of January 2021 has its theme as teaching and learning in the context of COVID-19 and other emergencies, implication for teachers and professional development. As saying COVID-19 dealt a major blow on education system, the TRCN boss said the conference, which will be declared open by the Minister of Education Adamu, will chart an effective, safe teaching system amid the COVID-19 pandemic. He also mentioned that the conference, which is being organized with the support of UNESCO Regional Office in Abuja, will attract various resource persons.
Yeah, well, the career path is what we have used. The career path is that TRCN developed is what they are going to use as part of the implementation strategy. You know, that career path, we have made it elastic a bit to accommodate up to 65 years. We have now changed it from 4 years, stay on the same level, to 5 years, so that there will be no stagnation and also people can move. So we have increased it a bit. But it's part of the documents that is being, in fact, the National Council on Establishment, where we presented the whole thing last year, November 30 to December 4 in Lagos at their meeting, actually gave massive approval as well to all these things. That's the National Council on Establishment, which is the highest body on establishment matters in Nigeria. All heads of service of all the states of the Federation, and the head of service of the civil service of the Federation of Nigeria is the chairperson of that body.
Nigerians need to comply with the guidelines and safety protocol to combat the dreaded coronavirus pandemic, which has resulted in millions of people being infected and millions as well dead worldwide. This is more so in the view of the second wave of the COVID-19, which is spreading even faster right here in Africa. These were the assertions during the official investiture of the third president and installations of other club officers, as well as the new District 404A1 Nigeria, the Centennial Lions Club in Lagos, where Dr. Ahmed Ajayi said, as part of his humanitarian duties, the organization will continue to sensitize the public on preventing the spread of COVID-19. He called on Nigerians who still ignore the pandemic to pay adequate attention to the virus so as not to be caught unaware. Lion Monsuru Yunusa and Lion Omotayo Jokoba echoed his assertion, pointing out that the club has no alternative than to carry out its humanitarian role on COVID-19 to the public.
Well, we have since been synthesizing the public on how to prevent COVID-19 by making sure that we put on our face mask and then wash our hand regularly with liquid soap and water, running water, and also with sanitizer. We have done a lot, and we still continue doing it because, COVID-19 came unexpectedly, and it's a worldwide pandemic. We have done that, and we continue to do it.
Hundreds of people marched on the Tunisian capital to protest police repression and corruption. We'll bring you details of that story and more from the foreign scene after this break. Welcome back. Hundreds of people marched on the Tunisian capital to protest police repression, poverty and corruption following several nights of unrest marked by clashes and arrests. Protesters in Tunis chanted "No more fear, the streets belong to the people, and the people want the fall of the regime," a slogan popularized during the Arab Spring a decade ago. They also held up banners calling for the release of hundreds of protesters detained since the 14th of January. The police say more than 700 people have been arrested following last week's clashes in which young people hurled rocks and petrol bombs at security forces, who responded with tear gas and water cannon. Much of the unrest has been in disenfranchised and marginalized areas where anger is boiling over soaring unemployment and a political class accused of having failed to deliver good governance a decade after the 2011 revolution that toppled longtime President Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. Moving to China, rescuers in China have freed 11 miners who were trapped 600 meters underground. A TV footage showed the first miner, who was blindfolded to protect his eyes from the light, being lifted out as emergency workers cheered. They were part of a group that had previously made contact with rescue workers and being sent food and supplies. The entrance tunnel to the Hoshin gold mine in Shandong province collapsed after an explosion on the 10th of January. A total of 22 miners were trapped in the blast, the cause of which is unknown. At least one died, and it is still not clear if the remaining 10 are alive underground. The first miner was brought to the surface on Sunday morning. He was blindfolded to protect his eyes from the light and was immediately taken to the hospital for treatment, with his condition described as extremely weak. And police in the Netherlands have arrested Say Chilo, the alleged head of one of the world's biggest drug gangs, on a warrant issued by Australia. The Chinese-born Canadian national is said to be the head of the company which dominates a $70 billion illegal drugs market across Asia. Listed as one of the most wanted fugitives, Say was detained at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. Australia will now seek his extradition to face trial there. The Australian Federal Police believe the company, also known as the Sam Gore Syndicate, is responsible for up to 70% of all illegal drugs entering the country. The 56-year-old has been compared to the Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman because of the scale of his alleged enterprise. Australian police had reportedly been tracking Say for more than a decade before he was arrested on Friday as he was about to board a flight to Canada. Moving to England, the Deputy Chief Medical Officers warned that people who have received a COVID-19 vaccine could still pass the virus on to others and should continue following lockdown rules. Writing on Sunday in The Telegraph, Professor Jonathan Van Tam stressed that scientists do not yet know the impact of the vaccine on transmission. said vaccines offer hope, but infection rates must come down quickly. A further 32 vaccine sites are set to open across England this week. Professor Vanton said no vaccine has ever been 100% effective, so there is no guaranteed protection. It is possible to contract the virus in 2 to 3 week period after receiving a jab, he said, and it is better to allow at least 3 weeks for an immune response to fully develop on older people. This week, senior doctors called on health officials in England to cut the gap between the first and second doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine.
Even if you're vaccinated, I can't assure you that you won't. I can assure you that it's very likely you'll be protected from severe illness, but I can't give you the assurance that you won't still pose a hazard to others through transmitting the virus. We have to just be patient on this point and give it another 2 or 3 months, and then ask me that question again, and I hope I'll give you a much more reassuring answer.
In a related development, Brazil began rolling out 2 million ready-to-use AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines made in India as protesters rallied in several cities against President Jair Bolsonaro's handling of the pandemic. The institute said it started to distribute the vaccine after another distribution program, which involved a deal between Brazil's government and AstraZeneca, which was stalled because of a delay in an active ingredient shipped from China. Brazil expected to produce up to 100 million doses of its vaccine locally as part of the agreement, following a considerable diplomatic effort that included Bolsonaro sending a letter to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. AstraZeneca agreed to supply Brazil with 2 million ready-to-use doses. Bolsonaro, who has repeatedly downplayed the threat of COVID-19, has faced increased criticism for his handling of the vaccine rollout and for his government's inability to get a surging pandemic under control. Coming up next on the news at 6 is sports. Don't go away. Tammy Abraham is the pressure and under fire of Frank Lampard as the Chelsea strikers hat-trick sealed a 2-1 win against Luton in the FA Cup 4th round on Sunday. In just the second season in charge of Chelsea, Lampard is fighting to avoid a sack after a wretched run in the Premier League. An embarrassing FA Cup exit against Championship opposition would have pushed Lampard closer to the axe, but Abraham's clinical display gave his manager some much-needed breathing space. Abraham scored twice in the first half before Jordan Clark got one back for Luton after yet another blunder from Chelsea keeper Kepa Arrizabalaga. Luton gave Lampard some nervous moments after that before Abraham finally sent Chelsea through to a last 16 tie at the second-tier Barnsley. Lampard will know that Chelsea, who were FA Cup runners-up last season, are still a long way from a finished form. And that's it on the news at 6 on MITV. Join us again at 9 o'clock for our primetime news. I am Tomi Sinjo. Good evening.